Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Shrimp Tank. I'm your co-host, Ted Jankin, here with my co-host, Lee Heisman. Of course, we'll bring in our guest in just a minute, Sara Bronson. She's the CEO and founder of Amani Financial. And she caught a piece of Lee and my heart today talking about entrepreneurship. So we're going to talk all about that. And something that you might want to be thinking about called Know Your Number. We're going to talk about that. Do you know your numbers? I mean, you should, no matter where it is in business altogether. Every week on the Shrimp Tank, Lee and I bring you some of the brightest and best CEOs and entrepreneurs, not only in the city of Atlanta, but across the United States. We've interviewed CEOs of publicly traded companies, Tony Horton, the founder of P90X, Brian Dawkins, Hall of Fame safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, and so many great entrepreneurs. And now with us in roughly 15 cities that you should hear us all over the place, in Columbus, Ohio, Seattle, we're in Boca Raton, Charleston, South Carolina, and so many other places. And the reason our podcast has been so downloaded now and people are watching these videos because everyone wants to hear the entrepreneur story. That's why we call this the Shrimp Tank, because we don't invest in businesses, but we really like to teach you this combination of book smarts and street smarts. As always, you can download us at any time at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Get us in the car. Local radio means nothing. You'll get an education listening to the Shrimp Tank. And go to our YouTube channel and subscribe at Shrimp Tank Podcast. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and make sure you click the notifications bell. That's how you get all the goodies in your inbox. So we're loving doing these videos as of late. We've done a lot of them, Lee. And we're excited today to talk to Sara because the rise of entrepreneurship has just been unbelievable in this country. And I think it's one of the greatest things about being in this country is that you get the ability to get up every day. And if you want to, yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, you're going to get kicked in the stomach 500 times, but you can start your own business and certainly control your own destiny. And I don't know if you could say that about anywhere else in the world. And Sara, I just wanted to start off in, people as of late, and I've done a number of articles on these, are hearing this term side hustle. You need to get a side hustle. But do you, what's the best way for somebody to think about starting a side hustle if they're going to do one? Because you must deal with a lot of people that have side hustles.
That's a really good question, Ted. I have a lot of entrepreneurs that started as a side hustle, but things quickly grew into a business. And so I think that the concept of a side hustle is important, but are you creating another job so you're working more than 40 hours a week? Are you really moving into creating a business? And a solid entrepreneurial business can grow out of a side hustle real quick. And so you've always got to be prepared. Are you ready to make the commitment and do the work to take it from a side hustle? There's also that bravery step. At what point does your side hustle then become, okay, I'm all in, I'm jumping, the net will show up, but this is what I love to do. I'm doing really well at it. And there's a lot of people I can serve. So let me take the leap of faith.
I was just going to ask Sara, because I think this is a great pretext for our conversation today, that the way I understand it is that this year in 2023, for everyone that's watching and even thinking about starting a side hustle, I don't care if you're going on Etsy or you're driving Uber or you're going to start a real business, that this whole idea of what's called to be a 1099K is actually going to be changing this year. That in prior years, the IRS said that you had to do at least $20,000 of revenue or 200, or I think N200 transactions. But now this year, if you have a business and you're getting PayPal or Venmo or whatever it may be, it's going to be a big change for a lot of people, won't it? Am I wrong about that or no?
No, it's going to be a huge change. And I think all of the online digital payment platforms are going to move this way. And there's some IRS and government requirements and their banking reporting requirements that are pushing them that way. But people have always considered their 1099 income, well, that's all cash to me. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten in a Uber or Lyft, and one of the first conversations I start to ask them how they're doing and how they're enjoying the company. And then, are you setting aside your tax reserves? So you don't
Right.
get surprised by, and it's like 50-50 more and more now. They're understanding after the first year in business, that whole 1099 income that came to you, it's not all yours.
I have to interject, Sarah, and say, first off, I can imagine meeting you and the first words out of your mouth are you setting aside tax reserves? And as if I was driving you in my part-time Uber gig, I'd be like, well, who did I just pick up? Number one. Number two, Ted, I'm going to steal something. Sarah, I've said this. We've exceeded over 1,300 episodes here on our podcast across the country. I always take away 1 to 2 points of most entrepreneurs. And as I mentioned, Sarah, you'll get there one day that when you get to break 50 like Ted and myself, you tend to hear a lot, so you don't have a lot of unique things. But I will tell you, Ted, you jump and the net will show up. I've never heard that before. Even if you make that leap of faith, the net will show up. And I'm using your words, I'm stealing it, Sarah, but I've got to lean into the most important point. I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. I am definitely not in the financial realm like you guys are, but most entrepreneurs are not in the financial realm. They're just running and grinding in the war. And you said something vital, which was know your numbers. And I will be frank with you. Not only do most entrepreneurs not know their numbers, they don't almost have time or make time to do so because they're just trying to keep their head above water. So can you speak to that point and provide your recommendations to your clients?
Yeah, a lot. And another really good question. And think about it. I don't know what you guys learned growing up about money management or the financial conversation, but most of us in this country didn't learn much beyond counting money. And the messages that we got from our family, from our communities, money's kind of secret, don't talk about it. We've believed it's a hard conversation. And so on top of not having time as an entrepreneur, you're focused on your product development, your customer service, all of those things in your business. The money's a daunting conversation. And so what we try to do in our business is really create the safe space for entrepreneurs to embrace the conversation of money. I call it helping them be prepared to have the open bathrobe conversation. I want you to bring us your box of
Lee's policy at home. You know that. It's the open bathrobe policy. He's got it at home.
Yes. But it's so hard for entrepreneurs to face the money conversation because it is intimate and it is very scary. And so what we want to do is help them understand what are the basic documents that you need, what's the information you need to track, and how is that information going to fuel the decisions that you make to ensure that you're profitable, that you're keeping more money, that you're investing in whatever you need to grow to that next level of business, that you've got the funds to invest in it.
Well, Sarah, we spoke a little before we started the episode today, and you spoke about 3 principles that you and your firm focus on. One was knowing your money, and I didn't mean to throw that, or know your numbers, and I didn't mean to throw that out of sequence, but would you speak to our audience about those 3 principles of your firm?
Yep. We call it the Amani Money Method, and we call it the 3 keys to generating wealth. And the first one is know your numbers. You have to know how much is coming in, how much is going out. Do you have any left over at the end of the month? And then what are you doing with that? It's simple math. It's not really complicated. We break down the language so people understand it. So it's know your numbers is the first one. Know your story is the second one. And that's usually what drives most decisions pre having an accounting department or documents. And even when you do, we've all made those decisions around making a gut decision. Haven't you guys ever made, like, you see it on paper, maybe I can or cannot do this, but my gut says I'm doing it anyway? So a lot of decisions are driven by the beliefs that we have about money. And that's where our story comes from, is from a young age. What are those beliefs that we have about money? Money, one of the ones that I got as a young age was that you have to work really hard for your money. Other people got, if you make a lot of money, you'll end up being a greedy person. Or if you have a lot of money, there won't be enough for someone else. So we all have these beliefs, and those beliefs will drive our decisions, and they develop our habits. So sometimes our beliefs can create a scarcity mindset, and other times they create a very abundant mindset. So your beliefs are your mindset. And then the third one is what's your plan? Whether it's a short-term plan or a long-term plan, what is the plan you're going towards? And then how do you manage the numbers and your emotional relationship with money to make sure that you hit your targets?
Because you do a lot of accounting and act as an outsourced accounting department for a lot of businesses. Number one, would you be able to tell entrepreneurs listening today, like, what kind of software they should think about using if they're going to try to do it on their own? And then what size do you get to as a company when you do start to outsource it? Because I can't tell you how many businesses that Lee and I have tried to sell, and we are blown away about how bad the books are. And it's like, you can't sell a business without the books being extremely clean. It's just not going to happen.
And clean books are a thing of great beauty, aren't they?
Yeah, yes, they are.
Wait, are we talking about that open bathrobe, or are we talking about clean books?
Yeah.
Well,
All of the
Listen,
above.
Lee,
All of the above.
she's in Sonoma in California. You know, they have wonderful outdoor showers there. That's part of the whole, Sonoma Napa life. You got to have all the rolling hills and all that stuff.
well, and we just about the open bathrobe, but the point of that is that money is an intimate conversation, and we want to create a safe space for everybody to talk about it. In fact, my mission in life is to make money more of a mainstream conversation, because the more we talk about it with each other, the more we learn and the more we understand. And I have yet to see a financial mistake that can't be somehow repaired or fixed or grown from. So we all carry a lot of nervousness around that.
Sarah, how do you talk to owners who they're in the later stages here? They're thinking about selling their businesses. Lee and I always use the term of add backs, that there's real profitability in a business, and then there's whatever fat you basically run through the business because you wanted to save money in taxes. Is there a way that you work with clients on that, or how people should be thinking about that construct when they get ready to sell their business?
Well, and we haven't had businesses go through a sale yet. Most of our businesses are early entrepreneurs and they're scaling. But I think it ties back to the question you asked. It all ties back to the question you asked before, what is the software they use? How do you get yourself going? And it's really coming down to, why is the accounting department so important? And because we're all leading to an exit strategy of some sort, and you want to be building wealth, and wealth is built from cash reserves. The definition of wealth in how I define it is your spending power. And so the more money reserves that you have, the more things that you want, the more ability that you have to spend on experiences or investments in your business. But that's where your wealth is really driven from. And it comes from having good financial information. So for entrepreneurs, when they're starting out, QuickBooks is a really good tool. Some entrepreneurs will use Xero. And there's a big difference between doing the books yourself or having a bookkeeper do your books. And a lot of bookkeepers, you may have found this when you go, like you said, you go into work with companies and their books are a mess. It's because bookkeeping or financial statements go beyond just data entry and reconciling the bank statement. You really need to understand, what is a P&L, what's a profit and loss statement tell you, and why is it important? What does your balance sheet tell you, and why is that important? And those are the conversations I want to teach and encourage entrepreneurs to explore, because then they're more confident with their numbers. And when they're coming to talk to you guys or anybody, a banker or an investor, when you're confident about what your numbers say, you can have a conversation with anybody, and you sleep better at night. You know where your money is. It just changes the confidence that a business owner has around their business when they can understand their numbers.
So Sarah, I do have to add, I'm sorry.
It's not an overnight one and done situation. It's something that we work with every month. So I want entrepreneurs to be patient in the process as well.
Well, that's like an oxymoron, like safe war. You said entrepreneurs and patience. So I'm not sure how much they work together. But let me ask you a question. And I always talk about this term, the Goldilocks amount. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's just the right amount. But when you're an entrepreneur and you are struggling just to work on customer service, client acquisition, and you still have a set of books, how much detail would you recommend for your clients? Because too much detail, as we go through, we do a lot of M&A for clients, and we've been through it ourselves. The level of detail that a private equity firm does, it's enlightening, but I don't think when looking at my books post-sale of my business that it would have changed a lot of my behavior, but there's a heck of a lot of time analyzing numbers. Also, too thin doesn't really let me know where things are going. So, it feels like there's I mentioned that Goldilocks amount. What recommendations do you have for not too little, not too much, and how do you find that balance?
I think it's unique, as you know, to every business. And I think it's important that you have that conversation with who's ever doing your books, because the folks who are tracking the information and giving you the accurate profit and loss balance sheet, they're in the weeds with the numbers, but it's how do those numbers lay out that tell the story of your business through the movement of cash. And as you said, too much detail, it makes your eyes roll around in the back of your head. It's not necessary. All of it's not there. So a lot of the times, a good bookkeeper will take the detail from your financial statements and they might put it in a dashboard or a summary so that you can really get the highlights of the business and make decisions from that. And too little information, then you don't have enough to make an accurate decision.
So I saw this comment on here that you help a lot of business owners try to release old patterns and habits. And I always remember when I had my big money business that spenders will break your heart. And so how do you deal with business owners who just milk the business thinking it's their personal bank account? And how do you try to help? Because you are playing part psychologist here, or a therapist, or whatever you want to call it. How do you help break them of those habits?
Mm-hmm. It takes time and some patience, and sometimes a little bit of tough love.
Yeah.
And, it comes up periodically throughout the year when they're asking, it's like I made a profit, where's the cash in the bank? It's not there. So they pulled it out, or they made investments that aren't working. Or it'll come around at tax time, and we're looking for how are we going to pay the taxes? What was the net profit? And then where did it go? And so one of the most important conversations we have early on with entrepreneurs is the importance of separating personal expenses from your business expenses. And I encourage all my business owners to also keep personal books, because you're trying to also fund your home, your family, your kids, whatever you've got going on at home, college is coming up, whatever. You're building this business to create wealth and to provide good services, and you're passionate about your services and products, but you're also trying to build your own wealth. And so you want to track how much you need personally to pull out of the business.
Is it weird,
Sarah,
do you think?
I was
gonna say, is it weird to you that there are people that are in a relationship, they may be married, doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man running a business, that whoever's running that business could lose 10 grand in a heartbeat spending on the business. But if their spouse or partner spends $1,000 on a new couch, they go ballistic. Yep. Why are business owners wired that way? Why do they justify themselves? They get angry about those small purchases, but they would lose money in a heartbeat in a business and never question it at all.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the money story. What are your values? What's important? And oftentimes it's where their focus is. I'm focused on driving this business. Maybe I've got staff who are dependent on me. That seems to be the most important thing. But then what are their values around their family and home? And an interesting conversation I have with partners, whether it's life partners or business partners, is getting them to understand what are their values, what are important to them, and then also understanding what are their priorities around money. Where do I feel safe and secure around money? Am I a spender? Am I a saver? What's the plan for our life? And the other one partner may be a spender and one partner may be a saver. And each person needs to get their needs met, but we're also in a partnership with common goals. So the more we can open up that conversation and understand what each other's needs are, and then have that one common goal, so we're both contributing to it. So I might need to bend a little bit if my partner's a spender and I'm more of a saver. I might need to be a little more relaxed and go, okay, in order for my partner to feel safe and secure, I got to let them spend on things that they feel are important, and I'll be okay with it. And same token, they're going to agree to give me the power to save a little more money and look forward to retirement and the long-term plan.
Ted, you said it best earlier. I mean, this is marriage counseling, personal business counseling and marriage counseling. Sara, and again, for people that are listening now and not watching our YouTube link of your show, you hear Sara's voice. She literally looks just like her voice, very patient, very welcoming, very warm. And I can tell that theme, Sarah, that you've said, the word patience, you've said that multiple times because it feels like you have to have a lot providing guidance to your entrepreneurs. So I have to, as we're starting to wrap up the show here, I have to ask the difficult questions, which are, that level of patience of yours. I want to know when you didn't have it. When was the last time that you've been working with a client and you realized this isn't going to work for me and my firm? You're not listening to me. You're not taking my guidance. Again, I feel that the wick on your bomb is very long, so that wick would take a long time to go down. But have you run into those scenarios, and can you give us an example?
I can. And, it may be to the point where if we can't help you and you're not listening, that's also a drain on our business. That's an energetic drain on our business and our time. And sometimes we just have to sit down and discover maybe it's not the right fit. Personality-wise, business-wise, something that the business owner wants that we're trying to help them achieve, but they're not making the decisions that we're trying to guide them to. And we'll be flexible, but sometimes, and then we'll develop a transition plan. It's never a hard, this is not a good fit, but we always want to help the business owner make a good transition to another firm. But sometimes it just comes down to that. And
Sarah, so I got to interrupt you and ask. I'm sure. See, you just continue to give the perfect answers. It wasn't that I fired somebody. You have a transition plan. You're amazing. I'm being completely serious. I love your philosophy. But tell me the last one you fired on the spot. When there was no transition plan? You've had enough of this. They've exhausted all. Oh, look, you're shaking your head. You already have the answer.
Yeah, I think it was 2018 or 2019, and we'd worked so hard to help this client, but at every turn, we just get to the point where we could see light at the end of the tunnel. We knew we were making that turn around the corner, and then out of the blue, they made a crazy decision. In fact, it's happened twice where it was just like, we can't help you. We don't know, and I'm afraid to recommend someone to help you. We've also had business owners who maybe got into a little bit of trouble and weren't willing to have that open bathrobe conversation, and the information they were giving us was not accurate. And we were doing work based on what we thought was true, and what was true was completely different. And at that point in time, because we function, one of our core values are ethics and integrity. When that line is crossed, we have to say, no, sorry, we're gone.
Fair.
Lee, I recommend that you try the open bathrobe conversation at home.
I would like to keep my wife, so I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. But
I want to pivot for a second here, not off the business, but talking about what you're going to be doing in the business, because we're a little bit post-COVID right now, getting there at least, and you're going to be launching this fabulous money workshop. And we were talking before we went live that initially you're going to do this through digital. And I'm just curious about how you're approaching this, what software you're using, and how you're going to find the people to get on the webinar, because there are a lot of business owners that may be like you that are growing digitally, clients they can take anywhere in the United States. How are you thinking about that as you launch the course?
Well, and launching courses is a huge topic in the coaching and service business world right now. So there's tons of courses where people will teach you how to launch an online course. I've taken a few of them. And so we're taking those core, really it's going to start with our mailing list and clients that know us. We've been fortunate to be functioning on referrals up to this point. And now as we want to grow, I've hired a marketing firm to help with the marketing information, but it's again, I'm going back to patience. Thank you for triggering me with that and reminding me I use it a lot. But, we start with a small group and grow from there. But folks who know us and want to experience the work and really find those people, the money conversation is everywhere today. And I think it's partly because of the economy and the changes that we've been through in 2008. And then again, during COVID, the surprise in the economy where money just came to a screeching halt, and the rise of entrepreneurship. So people are much more conscious about, how do I understand this thing called money, and how do I build my own wealth?
Fair. And we're getting to our final section. We've got to jump in. And by the way, I hope the patience word wasn't a bad trigger. I was I'm admirous of it, and I need to be around people like you more often, Sarah. So I'll be following you because I need more patience, like most entrepreneurs, of course. But let's get to our plead the fifth section, where we get to just hit you with a few fast plead
Ooh,
fifths.
nice.
You can plead the fifth one time, and I will tell you, I'll start off very, very low hanging fruit and say, you know, you live, I think California, you said, is at the Sonoma area, of course.
Yep.
I'm very ignorant. I've lived in just two places in my life, and that's New Jersey and Atlanta. And my wife and I would love to move to California, but there's been a mass exodus from that state. And I hear all these stories. Why? I think, does it have to do with financial reasons? And you happen to be an expert in that space.
I think it's many, many reasons here in California that the tax laws are one of them. But I think the explosion of the IT industry here on the West Coast has been huge. California also, the weather here couldn't be better. But I think the IT industry drew a lot of people. And when COVID hit and people could work from anywhere, maybe they went back to different parts of the country where the cost of living was less. Their families were there to help support them with their young kids. Maybe they wanted to move to the mountains, or I'm from the Midwest. Maybe they wanted to go there. So I think that's part of the mass exodus, is between the cost of living here and the opportunities to be closer to family and friends.
My understanding is a lot of people have moved into Nevada just because of the no state income tax. That's one of the big reasons people move to the desert.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're in Sonoma. I guess it would be in poor taste for us not to ask if someone's making a trip to Sonoma or Napa, if you go there at all, is there a winery or two that we should try that you like there?
You know, there's a winery everywhere you turn. Everywhere you turn. You mentioned the Carneros Resort, which is lovely. And I have to tell you a little secret, is that I am allergic to wine. I don't drink it. However, I can drink champagne, traditional champagne.
Oh, they have good champagne there too.
Oh, delicious.
Domaine Carneros is real good there.
Domaine Carneros is here. Chandon, Mums, Schramsberg.
Mums is great. Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to the Champagne Caves. But the wineries here are beautiful, and to watch the vines grow from April to the end of the year, it's just magical. And
I will
people
tell
come
you,
and
many years ago, many years ago, I think before Thomas Keller got famous, you know, I had eaten originally at the French Laundry, then Bouchon, but my favorite place out there is Ad Hoc. And I just love going there because it doesn't, you know, who knows what you're going to get. But I had fried chicken there one night, and I will say it's some of the best fried chicken I ever had.
yeah, I love Ad Hoc. And my son turned me on to it several years ago, and we go every time he comes to visit. It's delicious. There's also a new place in Healdsburg called the Silver Thread that I haven't been yet, but people say it is phenomenal. So
again, Ted, I have to say for our listeners, I recommend jumping on the YouTube, because the moment Ted asked that question about wine and we started talking about food, Sarah's eyes almost came out of her head, through her glasses. Your animation went exponentially through the roof, and I love the passion. So I'm going to chime in, and obviously you're in California, and I've always joked that, you know, California's food and wine is like, if you're in Washington, D.C., you talk politics. If you're in California, the San Francisco, Northern Valley, you speak of food and wine. What is another passion of yours where you get to rejuvenate yourself prior to getting back and being the therapist for your clients?
Well, I'm an outdoor woman, so anytime I can get on my bike and ride through the vineyards, I'm in heaven. And I'm also a water girl, so I'm about 45 minutes from the Pacific Ocean, and the beaches here in California are gorgeous. And so when I just need to refuel, I'm off to a really beautiful beach, take some hiking shoes, and just enjoy the afternoon.
Lee, I played many years ago. I think it was Bodega Bay out there, was just spectacular. And I was so worried on every hole that I was going to drill a golf ball into somebody's glass windows, because the homes must be so expensive out there. They're just magical, overlooking the the ocean.
They're gorgeous. And Pebble Beach, have you been to Pebble Beach?
I have. That was a dream to play that. It was unbelievable. I couldn't get on the Monterey Peninsula because Lee, you have to be in the there's a few private courses there that people think Pebble Beach is like, as far as public courses, it's one of the best in the country, but Monterey Bay is the private course that's down next to Pebble Beach, and it's it's like Augusta of the West is what it is. So really amazing stuff. Well, how will people get this money course? How will they be able to take it? Is it going to be on your website?
So if they want to sign up and get on our email list for notification, they can go to www.amani, and that's AMANI-financial.com, and download the 14-day money affirmation guide, which is a tool that will help you with your money mindset. And you can also get on the email list, and we'll notify you when the course is ready to launch.
And Sarah, it sounds like if they've got a business that's starting to grow and it has some revenue, or it's scaling with some employees, that's the ideal person that should be calling you to outsource their accounting department.
Absolutely. And there's a link on the website as well. If you're looking for accounting services, there's a way to sign up for a 30-minute call where we can analyze where you are with your business, learn more about what your needs are, and find out if we're a good fit to help you.
Well, it's great stuff. Thanks so much. Again, it's Amani-financial.com. That's how you can go there. Recommend that you might want to take a look at Sarah's money course. I mean, listen, Lee and I know that, most entrepreneurs start one business, then a second one. You've got to get your books in order. Sarah's completely right. You've got to know your numbers, and you've got to make a plan and figure out how to stick to it. Being an entrepreneur is fun, but it certainly isn't easy. And if you do it right, you too can create both amazing fortune for yourself in the future, and one day be able to maximize your business and sell for a lot of money down the road. So Sarah, thanks so much for joining us today on the Shrimp Tank. And we got so many more people coming at you. Lee and I are booked out for 6 months this year. Just amazing entrepreneurs, blue collar, white collar, service business, manufacturer business. If you're on the YouTube channel, recommend that you check out one of the founders of Spanx, Dave Wazalewski. You might want to check out the #1 sleep doctor in the country who's out in LA, Dr. Michael Bruce. We interviewed him as well. And of course, Tony Horton, who's out on the West Coast as well for P90X. And stay tuned, folks. Lee tells me we may be doing Tony Horton Part 2 coming up soon. Maybe Lee and Tony will go for a pull-up challenge or a push-up challenge, mano a mano. We'll see what happens right here on the Shrimp Tank. Thanks as always for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.